Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege and honor to introduce the 61st Superintendent. Please sit down. Go ahead and sit down. When he walks over, if you want to stand up for him. No, I'm kidding. The 61st Superintendent, Vice Admiral Miller, he's a 1974 graduate of the Naval Academy and a naval aviator. Through his almost 37 years on active duty, he has been on the front lines as a leader and been in very significant positions in Washington, D.C. Specifically, he was a squadron commander in combat in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, was the commanding officer of the 3rd Fleet flagship, the USS Coronado. He commanded the USS John F. Kennedy aircraft carrier and the USS Ronald Reagan carrier battle group. In the District of Columbia, he was a deputy assistant to the President of the United States. He was also the first active duty officer to be the director of the White House Military Office. And before he became superintendent, he was the Navy's representative to Capitol Hill as the chief of legislative affairs. An illustrious career. We're fortunate to have him as our leader here at the Naval Academy, Vice Admiral Miller.
Well, it's great to see you all, and I see old friends. I've got some new friends in the room. Friday afternoons are always a challenge at any academic endeavor, and so I know the first rule is to be brief. I regret that I was not able to participate in the conference. You know, this is one of 4 conferences we do here. The first one we do earlier in the year is a science and technology. Then we do an undergraduate leadership forum. We're about to do the Naval Academy Foreign Affairs Conference. But the McCain Conference occupies a unique niche here at a school that should be known for its dialogue about leadership. I just came from a trip out in Missouri, which is why I was not here for the earlier portions of this. But the fundamental issue that we discussed was ethical leadership. And ethics is on the tip of everyone's tongue today for very good reason. So I welcome you to the Academy. I think there's a good question to say, why do we do these conferences? And I believe it is because even though we've got tremendous professors, we have well-educated people that are experts in the field in our various institutions, and I know that many are already anticipating the government shutdown, which I just hung up the phone on another element of government shutdown. It's just incredible to me how complex some of these issues are. None as complex as the issues that you all have been discussing here at the conference. As was mentioned, everybody likes to talk about being the beneficiaries of their experience, and I think sometimes we're the victims of our own experiences. And so I looked at the world through the lens of someone who fought in Desert Storm. Not surprisingly, most of our students today don't have any direct recollection of the first fight in Iraq. And so I considered this ethical dilemma of as we have moved through this phase of massive power on massive power and get into the nuances that you all have discussed here, why it is important to have these type forum. And I believe it is because there is a synergistic effect that occurs when you get great minds together from all walks of life, and from the West Coast, from the East Coast, throughout the heartland of America, to get people together to see through different lenses, different prisms, and to be able to separate some of those colors, those shades of not just gray, but every color imaginable, to hopefully learn and to plot a course to the future. And at least it has been my experience that I come in because now I'm, as was mentioned, I'm the old guy around here, and and you think you've learned so much, and yet you, through one conversation, can see the world in a different way. That's the magic that occurs at all of the institutions that are represented here. It is a sacred trust, and it is something that I take very seriously, and I sincerely appreciate your investment in that time. I'm struck by the fact that as we now are focused on the class of 2015 that's about to enter all of our institutions, that the vast preponderance of those students will have been 7 or 8 years old when 9/11 occurred. In another 2 years, we will have, in the main, in our colleges, in our universities, we will have students who have no direct recollection of 9/11. And yet I think about how after we took that peace dividend, we won the Cold War, all of the salutary backslapping that we did at the end of the collapse of the Soviet Empire. And as we went through Desert Storm, we thought, well, all of these will be these short confrontations and this quick, we'll go in lightning fast, shock and awe, and then we'll get out, and then everything will be fine. And as we found after 9/11, the ethical questions of how do you deal with an amorphous enemy, but a very serious threat nevertheless, is something that our students today, our citizens today, must seriously consider for us to be able to effectively employ what is still the most powerful military on the planet. It also brings to mind, what should the citizenry think about when we decide or when we ask our leadership to employ military arms in foreign countries? I mean, it just seems like it was yesterday in the wake of Desert Storm where we were enforcing, and I was one of those guys, enforcing a no-fly zone over Iraq. Gosh, it almost seems familiar to me. It seems like I heard it on the news last night, only it's not Iraq now, it's Libya. And it was a very dangerous time then, because every day people were shooting at U.S., predominantly Navy and Air Force pilots. I didn't like it then, I don't like it now. And then we look at the ideological fire that has been set across the Arab Crescent, and I consider what that must mean for those that will continue to serve long after I've taken off the uniform. So I thank you for coming to discuss these important issues. I think it's as much the reflection of our thoughts and the dialogues that must ultimately shape where and how we will employ this remarkable force. And when I say that, I mean, I truly mean that includes our citizens. I think, I want to be sure to thank our panelists. And for those of you that have traveled so far from the UK and Canada and Hong Kong and around the world, some of our participants I note from Norway, and I mean, the list goes on, and at the risk of not offending anyone, I would just tell you that I think that it is this broad spectrum of views that is the strength and the health of these type dialogues. And it is one that I hope to continue. So as we move forward, unfortunately, I can't stay. But I find that this next panel that will discuss the military ethics in the Hindu and Chinese and Islamic warfare, those are, I mean, every day we are faced with it, whether it's written in the language of the daily periodicals or not. It is it is there as a subset or perhaps a foundational dialogue that I think is critical for our future success. So I would ask that in the end, that the product of this, because the dialogue is important, but there's a product that must occur. And hopefully within our students that were here, that they consider how to implement some of this dialogue, how you actually express it to the American public, how we embrace it in our educational process, because it must not be something that are words that are spoken and just disappear with the wind. I am convinced that the people in this room and most assuredly some that have already had to catch flights can, if they share this information, can shape the way we deal with these future threats. I love the Navy's new branding, you know, a global force for good, and I'll stipulate that our other services have wonderful branding as well. But I do believe that in that discourse, that a global force for good is much more than just dealing with the tsunami or the earthquake or the small regional issue of the day. That's just soup du jour. We must have a broader impact in the context of what we do for the future security of this nation. So, for the record, although I know she's not here, I would like to publicly thank Mrs. Cindy McCain, who supports this important conference, and of course the efforts of her husband, a great patriot, a class of '58 here. And I hope that this has been worthwhile enough that you would consider coming back next year to further this dialogue. It's no secret, at least to the midshipmen here, that I've spent a lot of time talking about cyber. And I believe that the issues that we talk about here, the wartime or the ethics in the post 9/11 world, I think have a direct impact and must have some sort of foundation for us to deal with an increasingly anonymous enemy, and what that means for our ability to respond and how we keep ourselves safe. Because I am firmly convinced that the next attack, if you think about it, it really is a new form of warfare. Misinformation is not, but the ability to control someone else's ability to share information is a new concept. You couldn't kill every town crier in the Revolutionary War, but it may be possible in the next war to shape what the town crier has said to such an extent that it may, you look at what's happened in Tunisia, and you look at what's going on right now throughout the Arab world. It is shaped by people's ability to control information, and that's what our subject will be next year. So I thank you for your time. It's warm, it's Friday afternoon, it's kind of a gray kind of day. It is time well spent, and I thank you for all of that and for listening to me for a few brief moments. Thanks again.